What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Mark Cirillo College Football Show. Tonight's episode's a little bit of an emergency show, you could say, because we have huge news in college football. Caleb Williams, Oklahoma freshman quarterback, has entered his name into the transfer portal. Where is he going to go? Who knows? We're going to talk about that in this episode. He did write a letter saying that he is open to returning to Oklahoma, but he wants to explore his options, and the only way to do that is by putting his name in the portal. You know, he really emphasized his development and preparation as a player for the rest of his career. Obviously, this guy is an NFL caliber talent, so he wants to go somewhere that's going to get him ready for that next step. So, let's dive into some of these potential options. I think the first one that comes to mind is obviously following Lincoln Riley to USC. So, what's going on at USC? What do they have in their QB room? Who do they have as their recruits? Does it make sense for them to go out and get Caleb Williams? So first off, Keaton Slovis played a lot of games there, started a lot of games at USC. He is off to Pittsburgh. He's in the portal. We actually talked about that last episode. I love that move for Pittsburgh, but Slovis is gone. But they do have two freshman quarterbacks, soon to be sophomore quarterbacks, that were four-star quarterbacks in this last class. They have Jackson Dart and Miller Moss. Jackson Dart, he played in 6 games this year. He showed legitimate flashes of being a great player. He had a big game against Washington State, came in and won a game when they were down. So he's shown a lot of promise. But my question is Jackson Dart enough to keep Lincoln Riley from going to get his guy? You know what I mean? Caleb Williams is his guy. He recruited him. He brought him to Oklahoma. They had early success there. He was a freshman once they replaced Spencer Rattler. So is Jackson Dart enough? I don't think he is, but who knows? They also have a 5-star number 2 overall player in the class of 2023, quarterback Malachi Nelson, committed. I don't think any Caleb Williams news would impact Malachi's commitment. So I don't think, Lincoln Riley has to worry about that, but you do have to worry about Jackson Dart and Miller Moss. If you take Caleb, one of those guys, if not both, will probably leave. But I don't think there's enough there to hinder their pursuit in Caleb Williams. Next up, we have Georgia. I mean, that's been the hot name being thrown around, that they're the early favorite. Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels can actually both return, believe it or not. So there's some uncertainty there in the QB room. What's going to be there? Are both going to come back? Is one going to come back? Time will tell. They also have, a 5-star quarterback and the number 4 overall quarterback in the 2021 class, so a true freshman in Brock Vandagriff. So that is of serious concern if Caleb Williams comes, that you might lose Vandagriff, who is a big-time recruit. So I don't think that would stop Kirby Smart. I think Kirby's a guy who wants to win now. They have the team to do it. They're not worried. I don't think they're worried about losing a big-time recruit, if it means they could get a Caleb Williams. But, my thing with Georgia is, obviously they're still alive. They're playing for a national championship. If Stetson Bennett wins you a national championship and says, I'm coming back to Georgia, how do you bench the guy for Caleb Williams? I don't think you can. There would be a huge controversy, and I don't think you could, give that commitment to Caleb Williams right now. I don't, without knowing the future of Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels if they win a national championship this year. But I do think Georgia is a legitimate contender, but I think there's definitely some questions to be answered in terms of Caleb Williams to Georgia. Next up, is not the obvious, but you got to talk about Oklahoma. He said in his letter he's willing to come back to Oklahoma. He just wants to explore these options. So, with Oklahoma, he's comfortable there. You know what I mean? He's been there. He's won there. He finished strong. I know they lost Oklahoma State, a big loss for them, but they did win their bowl game. They looked good. And, do you give the benefit of the doubt to the new staff? The only question is, Venables is a defensive-minded head coach. Does he feel like he might not get that proper development that he was getting from Lincoln Riley? I could see that. I could see why he entered the portal to explore these options. So I think Oklahoma is definitely a possibility, but I don't think that's going to be the most likely scenario. Now for the long shots, I've seen LSU out there. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. You have Max Johnson leaving. They need him. LSU, I'm sure, would absolutely love Caleb Williams. No questions asked. You have Max Johnson leaving. He's going to A&M. You have Miles Brennan. He pulled his name out of the portal, so he is coming back, and it seems like it's his team next year. under Brian Kelly, but I think Brian Kelly would take Caleb Williams in a heartbeat. The question is, would Caleb Williams go play for LSU? LSU is a great program. They were a little bit down this year, but if you're talking about being developed, about wanting to be developed into a top tier QB prospect, has Brian Kelly proven that? LSU's proven it. They've had Joe Burrow, obviously years back, Jamarcus Russell, but has Brian Kelly proved that? I think that there was a stat recently after Ian Book lost the Monday Night Football game. I think it was like 24 straight losses by Notre Dame quarterbacks in the NFL. And, I think a lot of them were probably developed by Brian Kelly. You have Ian Book, Deshaun Kaiser. I think Brady Quinn was probably under him as well. So those are guys that good college players, but didn't quite make it in the pros. I mean, I guess to be determined on Ian Book. He's still a rookie, but who knows there. And then here's one that I'm just having fun with. I made a TikTok on it. I don't think this actually happens, but what about Clemson? You know what I mean? They did just land the number one quarterback in this year's class. But right now it's pretty much DJ in terms of at the collegiate level that's been there. And he struggled this year. DJ did not look like the DJ we thought he was going to be when he filled in for Trevor Lawrence the previous year, coming out as a recruit. It looked hard for him. I mean, I think he's a great player with a lot of potential. But Caleb Williams, I think, is an upgrade right now. And I think Dabo might jump on it. I could see him not wanting to potentially because of the 5-star QB they have coming in. But I think the biggest holdup there is actually Brett Venables, because would Dabo do that to his former defensive coordinator? Caleb Williams isn't ruling out Oklahoma, so it would kind of be a competition between Dabo and Venables to land that commitment. And I think Dabo would just sit this one out in terms of, competing with his former assistant. But it's an interesting hypothetical, and it would be a big, big splash by Clemson in what many consider a down year. They still won more than 10 games, but this was a year for them that they probably don't consider a success. So it'd be a big splash and really get them back in the forefront of the national news, right? After talking through these options, I think it's pretty clear. Obviously, anything could happen in college football, especially with the new NIL deals. Someone might just come out with an offer that's too good to refuse. But in terms of what we talked about, I think, it's USC, Georgia, or just staying in Oklahoma. I'm going to put staying in Oklahoma probably as the least likely of the three, just because I think it was telling that he talked about his development, right? About his future prospects as a player with Venables as a defensive coach. I mean, they have a great offensive coordinator in Levy, but nothing quite compares with, going to learn under Lincoln Riley more, right? He originally committed to Lincoln Riley. That was the coach he committed to. So I think USC right now, earlier I said I think Georgia was the most likely. Now that I'm thinking through it, I think USC is the most likely. They have Jackson Dart. They have Miller Moss. But I just don't think that's enough to stop Lincoln Riley from going out and getting his guy in Caleb Williams. So I do ultimately think that the most likely outcome is Caleb Williams committing to USC, followed by Georgia. I just think there's too many moving parts at Georgia right now in the quarterback room. You have two quarterbacks in Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels that are leading Georgia to a national championship, and they could come back. So I think it's just not going to be enough time for Georgia to commit to Caleb Williams. And then we mentioned Oklahoma. That would probably be my third option. That's how I think it'll play out. Thank you guys for watching. Comment, subscribe, and let me know where you guys think Caleb Williams will be playing football next year.